Welcome to the training program in prenatal counseling and body-centered hypnosis and the Peterson method. I'm Dr. Gayle Peterson. I'd like to tell you just a bit about my background in terms of becoming a mother and how that influenced me in developing this model for prenatal counseling. I gave birth to my daughter in 1973 with the help of the Santa Cruz Birth Center midwives in Santa Cruz, California. That was a center that was run by Kate Boland, who is my midwife, and had been founded by Raven Lang, who wrote the birth book. And basically, their prenatal care approach was to help a woman understand her own psychology related to giving birth. And it's not that they actually said it that way, but the questions they asked were very profound and brought a woman inwards to look at her relationship with her own mother, her relationship with her family, how she wanted to mother, and basically develop a sense of self in going towards labor and birth. And this was the background that influenced me when I began my research after my daughter was born. I actually got involved in research which looked at what contributes to normal birth. And what we found, and you'll see in this diagram, that the locus of control in women who became interested in the process and how to cope with it and how to become a mother, they had what was called an internal locus of control. So the internal locus was related to their sense that they had some control over the process, that they could influence it, and so they had increased faith and trust in the process of childbirth, and they also tended towards having more normal deliveries, or if something went wrong, they were able to cope with it better because their physiology wasn't kind of going haywire with anxiety as much as it would if they had their trust in others. So if they had most of their locus of control, shall we say, in others, then they would find that they became more frightened, more scared when something went wrong, and even frightened by the labor itself, even the normal labor process. Now, the research for the past 50 years, in prenatal, looking at prenatal physiology and labor, the research abounds with the negative effects of anxiety in labor. And Levinson and Schneider from the University of California put forth a study that showed that the catecholamines produced in women of high anxiety in labor affected the babies negatively. Their babies could go into distress more easily, and it affected the outcome of the labor because the oxytocin was reduced. The oxytocin that causes the hormone that causes the labor to continue and the contractions to build was actually decreased because of fear in labor. Now, this makes sense because in nature you would see that, it would be better if a woman could go to a place of safety if there was something she was frightened by or something frightening in the environment, the same as animals do. So the labor would stop and she'd go to a place of safety. So this makes sense, but in this context, what we found was that women basically weren't prepared for the transition, for the labor experience itself, or even the transition to motherhood. And so their anxieties could be piqued by the labor experience itself. So what we're really looking at in this model then is an effective way to deal with anxiety in labor. So there's all this research that says that anxiety causes problems in labor, but this model actually is one of the only ones I know that actually addresses in a short-term setting, a short-term counseling model, addresses the specific anxieties and concerns of a specific woman to help her in labor to have a more normal, satisfying, both psychologically and physiologically, good outcome. So what you're going to be learning here is how to create an individual profile for a woman, looking at her specific anxieties and then how to address them in the body-centered hypnosis how to also deal with pain in labor so that it doesn't peak the body into crisis and, override the system so that it shuts down the labor, her body system, her physiology. So basically to help a woman have a smoother childbirth and to face things that do come up, if there are difficulties or complications that arise, she's much more likely to have a calmer physiology if she actually develops these skills for labor and actually has a way to address her own fears and anxieties.